Billboard Chris is a Canadian father that goes around Canada and the United States telling people about the dangers of gender ideology and of transitioning young children. He wears 2 little billboards around his body, one that says children cannot consent to puberty blockers and another one that says that gender ideology does not belong in schools. He also has other billboards with the definitions of man and woman and mom and dad. And these definitions would not have been controversial 5 to 10 years ago, but we live in 2023 and ideology has trumped truth and logic. This past Friday during Trans Day of Visibility, which I don't know why trans people need to be any more visible than they are, given that they're on every commercial, on every TV show, promoted by governmental institutions, the Prime Minister, and the United States President themselves. They're basically everywhere. I'm thinking eventually they'll have a trans person just come live at your house so you can visibly stare at them 24/7. So during this, there were many protests and rallies all over Canada and the United States and other English-speaking countries. And Chris went to one in Vancouver, BC, where he is originally from. As he usually does, he just stood there with his signs and waited for people to come and talk to him. Usually, regular people come up and ask some questions, and he lets them know how, for example, gender-affirming care really means mutilating and castrating children and putting them on experimental medicines that have not been approved for the use of transitioning young children. But in this occasion, because it was all trans activists and gender ideologues, he got harassed and essentially assaulted within the first 5 seconds that he set foot on the park he went to. After this, after his nose was bleeding and scratched, he decided to call the police because that's what you usually do when you're assaulted. However, when they arrived, one young and bright female cop, because equality, decided to not even step out of her car before starting to accuse Chris of maybe doing that to himself, which is victim blaming. I think that's what the left calls it. After this, and when the independent journalist that was there recording the events told her that he had footage, she wasn't really interested in watching it. Eventually, more and more police arrived, about 15 to 20 officers, and they just came out of their cars and stood there looking at the trans activists berate and harass anybody that was there and wasn't 100% supportive of them. One diverse and vibrant individual, or a deranged lunatic if you want to see reality as it is, started yelling profanities and obscenities at Chris and started to inch closer and closer to him while all the police officers stood there staring at it. As the deranged lunatic was essentially almost on top of Chris defensively, and I'm thinking just as a reaction from his body, because when something comes into your personal space, you want to keep it away, put his hands up. And this is what gave the deranged lunatic the permission to grab Chris by the neck and throw him down on the ground. As this happened, most of the officers were just staring and slowly started moving towards the action, but the one young, bright female police officer, because equality, actually started smirking and enjoying, seemingly, that Chris had been thrown to the ground by this vibrant, deranged lunatic. And honestly, I doubt anything will come out of this because Vancouver is the wokest city in the world. But if something should come out of this is Officer 3081, the diversity equality hire that clearly doesn't know how to do her job without letting her personal bias come in the way, should be immediately fired. And Billboard Chris is a really dangerous person because he tells the truth about what they want to do to children. This is why trans activists and gender ideologues fear him and spit on him and yell at him every chance they get. He has already been attacked and assaulted about 8 times. He got his arm broken in Montreal by Antifa last year. And this also isn't the first time that the Vancouver Police have blamed him for an attack that happened to him. He was even banned for 6 months from visiting downtown Vancouver because he was inciting violence. Because apparently trans activists and very progressive people can't see a sign that they disagree with and not immediately assault the person wearing it. Hopefully Billboard Chris will get something out of maybe suing the Vancouver Police Department or doing something about this because, again, this has happened many, many times to him, and I think he deserves all the support and donations that he can get because all he's doing is just saying, let's not transition children. A lot of children do regret this, and we see this with detransitioners. His message does not include adults. Adults can do whatever the hell they want. If you want to chop off every body part and stick it back on in a different part, that's completely fine. And if you want to and you can, support him, donate to him at the website down below. And if not, just maybe thank him for the work he's doing, because most Canadians and now most Americans are completely terrified of speaking up against things that they don't agree with. He's a great example of doing just that and making a real impact. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.